fortunately, I had the help of the faculty union in dealing with the university. So I took those avenues as, for me, being affordable and probably more effective in my lifetime. I didn't want to become part of a new Canadian Jarndyce versus Jarndyce dragging on for decades. I've already done that. I was an expert witness in the Manitoba Métis case, which started in 1976 and wasn't settled until 2006. Well, it wasn't even settled, and that was the first level of trial that subsequently went to the Supreme Court. So the whole saga lasted 37 years. And having seen that from the inside, I mean, I didn't want to become part of something like that. And how can an individual fight in the court against these organizations that are all supported by the taxpayers, universities, the CBC, governments, political parties? It's just a hopeless contest. So I never really gave serious, I thought briefly about it, but never gave it serious consideration because you can see the practical obstacles for me were just too huge.
I understand on a personal level. I just want, in terms of the law, the law and public good,
yeah. Yeah. Well, it would if there is some deep pockets crusader out there who wants to take on these issues. I think they're probably ripe for litigation. Conrad Black, has made considerable grounds in his saga, but I don't have those resources.
Over here.
Professor High, have you thought to interpret your broader experience that was the basis of this book from the perspective of the late Christopher Lash's book, The Culture of Narcissism? And the reason I ask that is the whole incident seems to be an example of the narcissistic projection of shame onto you, unjustifiably.
No, I mean, the answer is no. I think this is one of many books I wish I had read but haven't. So no, it didn't occur to me. But from what you say, there may well be something there. But no, it didn't occur to me.
Matt?
Hey, Tom, I just want to sort of push back on two things you said during your speech and then invite you to comment. The first one is you said that unlike humans, chimpanzees have these marvelous fur coats. I happen to know that you have a marvelous fur coat. So at least that commonality may not hold up. And second is just on the issue of whether you can have deep academic discussions with social media, with modern technology. I completely get your points that these things are liable to overreaction, to misinterpretation, all that. On the other hand, as someone who works with students, I have students showing up to seminars, events that we run, and I'm amazed at the knowledge they have. And a lot of that is because of the internet. And 30 years ago, they would probably not have had the time or the opportunity to go through, reading Mises and Hayek at go to physical universities to take up the book. So I think there is something to be said in defense of technology and academic conversation. And just invite you to comment on that.
Yeah. Well, it probably is. You're probably right. I mean, part of my problem, I'm just too damn old. At the age of 70, social media for me is, it's like on another planet. And probably for many of you in the audience have the same kind of feeling towards it. But, the earth belongs to the living, as Jefferson said. And clearly things change. And, Plato in the Seventh Letter suggested that it was a bad thing to write books because he wanted the dialogue as the vehicle for philosophy. Well, in the end, we ended up with philosophical books. So things change, and I'm open to new technologies. And so I'm not a technological Luddite at all. But having seen up close the dangers of abuse of social media and their interaction with the mainstream media, I'm calling attention to that. But doesn't mean I don't think that they can ever have a constructive role to play in intelligent debate. But I won't be the one that develops that. I'm just wrong generation for that.
Last question.
I have a comment, if I may, about the presentation, and then a question. My comment about the presentation follows from what Professor Flanagan just told us about his age. I want to tell you, both gentlemen, that in an audience like this, you can expect that there are a number of people whose hearing is not what it used to be. And it would help if experienced presenters kept thinking about projection. One good idea would be to do what Professor Flanagan has been doing, is doing right now, which is holding the microphone about 6 inches from his lips and talking through it. That way, most people will hear what you say. My question goes back to the 4 points about technology that are new and have created in your presentation a kind of drastic change in the way we live. I just want to take you back more than 20 years to 2 events that I'm sure you remember. When Kim Campbell said that an election campaign is not the time for discussing profound ideas, and when Premier Stanfield, not Premier then, leader of the opposition Stanfield, dropped a football in front of a camera. The results for them, I suggest, were as quick and as drastic as they were as what happened to you. And I invite your comment on that.
Well, first, I'm sorry if there was an audibility problem. My wife is a speech therapist that specializes in problems of hearing, so she would chastise me if I wasn't getting through. And normally I don't even need amplification. I would use what my daughter calls my professor voice, but with a cold, I'm not able to do that. Yeah, that's a good point to make about what happened to Kim Campbell and what happened to Bob Stanfield. There has always been the possibility of mobbing, but of course these were highly visible public figures, party leaders. The rise of social media has now extended so I'm not saying that was never possible before, but I think social media have extended the possibilities through the technological innovations that I mentioned, so that we now, it's much easier to mob somebody who isn't even that prominent to start with, but it's easier to capture wording and present it out of context. So it's just enhanced the possibilities, I would say. But you're absolutely right. Similar things have happened, probably throughout history, but certainly within our memories.
Howard?
Tom, either wearing your academic hat or your political hat or both, and maybe you have to flip the switch. How do you explain, in the context of moral panics, the situation we have in a certain large city, it's called Toronto, where we have a mayor who is admitted to smoking crack cocaine, admitted to having a severe alcohol problem, and suspected, I guess, of driving around in his car well intoxicated. That innuendo has certainly been made. And basically done a lot of things that many people would find outrageous from a moral standpoint, others against drunk driving, et cetera, et cetera. And yet he's managed to come across as a sort of Falstaffian figure, and will probably get reelected the way the votes will split. A lot of people obviously don't like him and will vote against him, but on the other hand, he's kind of reveling in it in many respects, and what's happened to him has been an entirely different experience to what happened to you. Is there an explanation for that?
I mean, not living in Toronto or even in Ontario, I might have to confess I'm rooting for Rob because of the entertainment value. This is priceless. You couldn't make this stuff up. So every day now I have another reason to get out of bed and go online and see what the latest is. That's wonderful stuff. But for more serious comments, initially, back last spring when I was doing the first draft of my book, I wondered whether Rob Ford was being kind of victimized in the way that I was when we had images being shown in the media, but the original could never be found, and you couldn't source it, couldn't document it. But I think now the evidence is overwhelming that these were genuine pictures. And an important difference there is that apparently Rob Ford has been committing actual crimes. Whatever we think about whether smoking cocaine should be illegal or not, it is illegal, and he's been doing it, he's been buying it, and doing lots of other stuff apparently. So I don't think you have an expectation of privacy when you're committing criminal actions. So in an earlier draft of the book, I had a couple of pages that sounded more sympathetic to Rob Ford, but it became apparent to me as time went on that the situation was different than I had thought. But to explain his popularity, what can I say? Ontario, Toronto, it really is another country for me. I can't hope to understand the psychology of the people who are supporting it. Those who live there tell me that Rob Ford's core supporters are kind of a lot of working class people. Rob Ford strangely combines a lot of inherited wealth with a sort of a sub-proletarian lifestyle. And I find it amusing, but a lot of people seem to find that it's kind of like sticking a finger in the eye of the priggish authorities who try and run their everyday lives. So there obviously is a constituency for Rob Ford. It doesn't appeal very well in the PhD demographic or the LLB demographic, but on the streets of Scarborough and Etobicoke apparently it appeals quite a bit. So we've got a different kind of mayor in Calgary. We don't have time to talk about that.
Questions here?
I would trade, actually. I would.
Very quickly, with limited time.
Sure. Hi, Tom. My question is more of a request for an expansion on the comment that you made earlier.